I'm Mike.
And I'm Adam.
And this is Stuff and Waffle. Two friends talking about stuff, and often as not, waffling with frequent reference to Bond cars.
Well, we've got a hot topic this week, haven't we?
We had a little adventure, didn't we? We did.
Yes. Well, you were kind enough to arrange the paperwork.
There's a bit of admin ahead of time. Yes.
Well, that's it. Yeah. That's the problem. It's not like you want me going out on my third party again. Be fine.
It wouldn't be ideal.
No,
not really.
Not great.
Yes, you had your first drive in an electric car.
I did.
Your first drive in a Tesla.
I did, and
my Tesla, in fact.
Yes, that's it. It's very good.
Yes, and you did very well, I thought.
Well, thank you very much.
Yes.
I first off, thoroughly enjoyed it.
It was a grand day out, you might say.
Oh yeah, and take anything at the minute. It was a nice little treat, that, wasn't it?
Well, there you go. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there hasn't been a lot of that in the last 12 months. No.
Not at all. But it was really interesting to take out, especially because without any sort of trying, we managed to experience quite a lot of different traffic situations.
We did. Yes, it was an unplanned route that managed to take us down. Dual carriageway, country lanes, heavy traffic, all sorts of things.
It was useful.
Yeah, you had a full range to experience it in there. Yeah,
I did. It was just surprising how different it is to driving a normal car.
Yeah.
Firstly, because things seem to happen rather quickly.
Yeah, well, there's nothing you really have to do to make speed occur. It just does it.
It does.
You pop your foot down and it just gets on with it. As soon as you want it to happen, it will all happen in one go. Yeah, and that is different. An internal combustion engine car isn't really capable of doing that.
I mean, the biggest thing there is you need to adjust your brain for that, really.
Yes, it's a completely different way of thinking. Yeah, particularly with the regenerative braking, it's more effective if you plan ahead a little bit.
And that was immediately noticeable, especially considering the battery hadn't warmed up when I first took a spin.
You only had about 50% regen, when it was cold. Yeah, that's right.
And it was still quite fierce to someone who's never experienced it.
Yes, indeed. But later in the drive, as it warmed up and you got the full regen, it really comes in, doesn't it? It does feel like you've stamped on the brake pedal.
It does, because we took the quite windy road back towards town.
Yes.
And I don't think you use the brake at all. Aside
you commented that you really can do one pedal driving.
Yeah, because there's some really sharp turns on that road. And as long as you're aware of them, you could, like you say, you plan ahead.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was just such a different way of doing things.
Yes, it's a completely different way of making progress, isn't it? It makes you think in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, it really does make you think about what's around the next corner, or what the next corner is.
Yes.
I mean, not that you want to avoid braking or anything like that, but
no.
But the fact that if you do try and utilize the regen to your advantage, the thing it makes for a smoother drive.
Yes, well, it's how it's meant to be driven. I mean, you can turn the regen off, but I don't know why you would ever do that, because I think it's a really nice feature of an electric car that it does that.
Why would you turn it off?
I don't know. I don't know, but some people do.
It's strange. It's not that complicated to understand.
No, you lift off and it slows down. I guess maybe if people like coasting in it, or they want it to feel exactly like an internal combustion car, I don't know why you would do that, because I think it's one of the best features. And you are putting a little bit of power back into the battery, so there's an advantage to it as well.
Oh yeah.
But it you very quickly get used to that. That's what it does. And if you do think ahead just a little bit more, you can really use it to your advantage. And like you say, and you do get to a point where unless you actually want to come to a dead stop, you don't touch the brake pedal, which means your discs and pads last longer.
This is
Well,
true.
so there's actually a financial benefit to it.
The regen's probably the most useful bit of the whole thing. You acclimatize really quickly, and you miss it as well when you don't have it.
When it's not there, yes.
Because
When
I took my car
yes.
out later that day and was happily just pulled out of the driveway and set off down the road and approaching the junction. And I'd let off and thinking, oh, yeah, it's fine. And oh, yes, I have to brake in this one, don't I?
There's another pedal to use in here.
Yeah.
I've done it in the Fiesta, and you suddenly catch yourself. It's, oh hell, I've got a brake, haven't I? It won't do it for me.
No,
Yeah,
that's it.
you do get acclimatized to it really quickly for something that is entirely alien that you have never known before. You do take to it alarmingly quickly. It's very natural, I think.
Yeah, I think it is. Yeah.
And maybe it's because there's less to do. I don't know.
It seems to suit it.
Yes,
It
does.
It works really well. The accelerator pedal works rather well also.
Yes, you did experience that on a few occasions. Yes.
Yes.
A couple of very rapid overtakes there.
Yes, there's a couple of cyclists, and ordinarily in my car, you give them plenty of room and a boot full, and everyone's happy. A boot full in your car was very, very rapid.
Yes, you got to be prepared when you plant your foot to do what you're intending to do. Yes, but you can go for a smaller gap.
You can.
You don't need as long to do the maneuver.
No, and towards the end of our stint, I did find myself going for smaller gaps coming out of junctions.
Yeah, you do, because you know you can, and there's no building up to the speed. It's not like you've got to get an engine up to speed, or you've got to match the revs, or you've got to change the gear or whatever to get to the speed. It just does it. It just gets on with it. You have all the power all the time, and that's another big thing to get used to. Is that there's no messing. It's. I mean, you get that a little bit more in a car with an automatic transmission, but nothing like an EV.
No, we had that little instance where we pulled onto the link road, and I gave it a boot full, and I tell you what, my guts would have to adjust.
Yeah, I've got used to it after 4 years, but I know exactly the feeling you mean. It kicks you in the pit of your stomach, doesn't it?
It does. It was briefly in the back seat.
Yes, it's so brutal. The acceleration there is no give in it at all.
And I'll be honest, it was only half throttle.
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. No, I know. Yeah, you don't need to put it on the floor to get that sensation. And mine is the slow one.
I think if we got one of the faster ones for the first couple of journeys, might need a sick bag.
Well, we've all seen Robert Llewellyn's video doing that, haven't we?
Oh yeah, he made some funny noises.
He did
some rude words.
Indeed. Oh, I'm going to be sick. Yes. Now that was actually an earlier Model S, but I believe one with what was known as insane mode. Which later became ludicrous mode. That was a performance edition, but mine is a later one, which is quicker anyway. So they're probably fairly similarly matched in terms of what they'll do. But yeah, it is. You do get it's a physical sensation being accelerated that rapidly. And I know, I think whatever the 0 to 60 is on mine, 3.5 seconds, something like that. And I know you can get that from some of the high-end supercars, but it's a different sensation entirely.
Yeah, because there's still a build-up.
Yes, there is, and there isn't any build-up in an electric car. It just does it. in total silence.
Oh, we got a bit of spaceship noise.
We did get some spacey noises. Yeah, if you really push it, you do get a little bit of whine from the motors. But that's all.
Well, that just adds to it, if anything.
Oh, I think so. I think so.
And another thing about it, it's quite a big car.
It is. There's no getting around that. Yes, it is a large vehicle. Yes.
And you do notice its size on our roads, particularly when we were heading down the windy roads.
Yes, you do.
But it's still very chuckable.
It is. It's the low center of gravity.
It's
because the battery's on the floor. So, yeah, it's very stable. Very stable. For a car of that size, I don't know that there are many big sort of executive barges that you can chuck around the way you can with that.
No, and obviously you're going to have some good tyres on it, because I don't think yet you're not going to get some linglongs for a Tesla yet.
I wouldn't recommend it. No, it would lead to great unhappiness. Yes.
No, the Michelins that you've got on it, they seem to do the trick. So.
They are the ones that Tesla specify. Yeah, I stuck with they weren't cheap, but I stuck with the ones that they recommend, because that's not an area I want to save money, really.
No, actually, in recent times, I saw an XFR on a set of land sale.
Oh dear, that's not going to go well, is it?
No.
That's a 5-litre supercharged V8. That's not going to go well. Don't put cheap tyres on it. No. So putting down that kind of torque, you need some proper grip. And you're not going to get that from your ying-yong budget remolds or whatever they are.
No, that's just not what you want.
It's not going to work. No, that's going to lead to bad things happening.
That's it. Yes. No, I'm glad you got the fancy ones on yours. That's much better.
I stuck with the whatever they are, Michelin Primacy 3s, I think, are the ones they recommend.
Okay.
I stuck with that. Yes. The kind of torque it puts down, you need all the grip you can get.
Yeah, don't want to be saving and cutting corners at that point.
And it's 4-wheel drive as well, of course. So the grip in all 4 corners is nice. But it is very chuckable. It handles a lot better than you think it would from the size of it. And there isn't really any body roll or anything like that. It's flat and it goes exactly where you point it.
In fact, the steering was quite nicely weighted at speed as well.
The Model S, I think even Chris Harris, the Model S has been criticised for steering and braking. He didn't think it was very good. I know Johnny Smith's made similar comments that the Model S has got crap brakes and crap steering, but that's not something I have experienced. I haven't found that to be the case. I don't quite know what they're basing that on.
No, mind you, I suppose they've got a wider breadth of things to compare it to, haven't they?
Well, they have. They are far more experienced drivers than either of us. Yes, can't argue with that. But I haven't found it wanting in either of those areas.
No, I found it high speed. I thought it was nicely weighted when we were chucking it around the roads, but then when we were in town traffic and doing tighter maneuvers, it was light enough to be gentle and easy to maneuver, considering its size.
It's only the size that can make it difficult to maneuver. The turning circle isn't fabulous, but it isn't on any car of that size.
No, that's the thing. It's a big car. It's got wide wheels. It's never going to be a London taxi and do a U-turn, is it?
No, it's not. No, it's not, and it's not trying to be that. But
no.
Yeah, it does give you, when you sort of press on a bit with it, it does give you confidence that it's not going to give you a problem. It's a good driver's car, I think. I think
so.
It does a good job at what it's trying to be, and you've just got all that power that is quite addictive. The acceleration is quite addictive.
You're not going to get bored of it, and I certainly noticed going back to my car, just thinking there's no immediate response at all, really.
That's the problem. It spoils you for anything else, doesn't it? Anything else you get in just is slow and and it just it just doesn't compare. It can't. No piston car can do that. I mean that's not quite true. Piston cars can do that, but you've got to spend an awful lot more money.
Yeah. Yeah, I suppose it's not a fair comparison to compare
No.
like for like. Getting back in mind, it's just you notice when you oh, I can't go for the gaps that I did earlier in the day because I'll end up
Yes.
in a car that's not
Well,
mine.
I mean, you've commented on it when you've been following me driving it that I will go for gaps that you wouldn't have, shall we say?
Oh yes, that
Um,
appalling mini roundabout that we have to encounter.
yes, that's right. And
Mm,
when we were
yeah,
sharing an office and we took the same route home every night, and I was often in front of you, otherwise my headlights would blind you.
they are very bright.
They're very bright. Yeah, you can whiz around that in no time. In the time it takes somebody to turn going the other way, you can be round it and off down the road.
Oh
Um,
yeah, yeah. The old dears are still sat at the roundabout, wondering which way they're going.
yeah, you can be round, or to be fair, when they're dithering away, you could walk and get round them. But it get because the steering is as sharp as it is. It does give you the confidence that you can make a quick maneuver like that. You know, if you plant your foot, you're going to get the power. You've got the confidence in the steering that it'll take you round, and yeah, you can do it. You can go for those little gaps and just whiz on through before anybody really knows what's going on. So it was interesting that you picked up on the handling.
Yeah, I thought it was really nice.
Mm.
It did all the things I wanted. Yes,
Yeah,
and in terms of a place to sit, we were in the car for quite a while, and it was really quite comfy.
yeah,
Yeah, I had no complaints there. I really enjoyed the while you could probably get bogged down with the complexities of the colossal iPad, the the screen for the driver and the binnacle, that was really clean and simple. I know
yeah.
you can
They've
configure it, but that
You
was
can configure it, and they have revised it a few times over the years, or even since I've had it, it's been jiggled around with a bit. They've made the fonts a bit cleaner and the graphics a bit nicer. But yeah, did you find the big screen distracting at all? The big screen in the center?
no, not at all.
No,
I
you
don't
don't, do
think
you?
I'd even glanced to it. When we were stopped in traffic, I had a little look at the graph to see how I was driving,
Mm.
um, to see the numbers, to see if there was if I was driving the EV efficiently.
Yeah, very
Not too
good.
bad actually. Um,
No, you did okay. Yeah, you did
but
okay.
on the move, the everything in the binnacle was just right, and the screen is it's not while it's huge, it's not bright, it's not distracting. There's it's not busy. There's nothing happening in the corner of your eye.
No, it's not like it's got animations whizzing around on it all the time or anything.
No,
It's largely static. I mean, the map moves, but that's all.
yeah, and
Um,
we did have the map on, and
yes,
it wasn't a distraction. It's yes, it's a big sat nav. You don't
it's
look
just
at your sat
it's
nav.
just it's just Google Maps in
Mm,
the background all the time. Yeah, you can't actually not have the map. That's the only.
mm.
The map is like the background, and then you pop up the other apps on top of it.
Okay, yeah, I
So
no, I couldn't fault it, to be honest with that. It wasn't a distraction at all.
that's good.
I didn't really poke around with it, and
No.
obviously some people are less keen because it's all touch rather than any tactile buttons.
Yeah, and
Mm.
that's one criticism that I have is that you do to operate things that are on the main screen, you do have to look away from the road more than you would with a conventional mechanical button, because you can't feel your way to where the control is. Like my Jag XF, it actually had the buttons are big and chunky, and you kind of know where they are, so you can feel them and you can count your way across if you have to.
Yeah,
Or again, in the XF, and this was, I think, something they took from the Range Rover, they've put like little braille bumps on the buttons, so you can feel which is which without having to look at them.
no, that's a good idea. Yeah, that's
Whereas when everything's just on a touch screen, you have to look at it. You can't feel your way to where the control is. You have to look at it to operate the sat nav, or even to operate the climate control or the seat heaters and things. You do end up looking away from the road more than you would if it had mechanical buttons. That is a fair criticism. Stupid thing is the law hasn't caught up, because we're not even allowed to touch our mobile phones when we're sat in a car, although technically the law says whilst the engine is running. Well, well, that doesn't work for electric cars either. But most electric cars, in fact, a lot of non-electric cars now have big touchscreen interfaces on them.
Oh yeah.
So if you can't touch your mobile phone, but you can operate that because you have to, the legislation hasn't really caught up with that yet. In fact, there was a chap with a Model 3 writing on the owners group a little while ago, and he had to, for his work, he had to go onto a military base, and he was in his Model 3, and the guard said, well, you can come in, but you've got to get rid of that tablet that you've put on your dashboard. He said, no, it's part of the car. That's how I control it. That's the no, don't be silly. There's no cars like that. Get rid of it. You're not coming in with that thing. That could have cameras and recording equipment and all sorts in it. This is what the car is covered in cameras for a start.
Don't open that can of worms.
There's about 7 cameras all the way around it, watching everything that goes on. And yeah, so there's a bit of education needed there. But yeah, so there's that. There's a disparity there between what car manufacturers are doing and what the legislation says. Can't touch your mobile phone, but you can touch the massive 17-inch tablet that's glued to your dashboard. But of course, the answer to that is voice commands, which the Tesla does have, but you have to affect quite a strong American accent for it to understand you. So that can be a bit tricky.
It's a shame we didn't get to experience that the other day. That would have been nice to hear.
We should have tried that. Yeah, we should have tried that. But trying to get it to do what you want is a bit tricky. And they haven't put all the commands into the voice system. So I don't think you can control the climate control by voice yet. I think that's coming, but they haven't done it yet.
Right.
Now, the Porsche Taycan, I believe the screen in that has got like haptic feedback. So there's a little vibration through your finger when you're over a button. So that can be a little bit easier to operate without looking at it, but it's still not, to be fair, it's still not as good, I don't think, as a physical button.
Yeah, it's not going to give away which button it is, though, is it? It's just going to be you're on a button. You're still going to glance and wonder what one it is.
I think so. So that is a genuine, there's a lot of criticism of that. And it's a fair point. You do definitely look away from the road more operating a screen than you would physical buttons.
Yeah, it's a bit of a problem. Yes.
Yeah, that is a genuine. You can't argue with that really.
No, I've only experienced it in the modern Volvos, and the screen is crap.
Right.
Just dreadful. It's not a massive. I think it's only a 9-inch screen, but the trouble is, it runs the whole car pretty much. You think,
they do now, don't they? Because they're all running the cars by software, which is fine, but yeah, you need a decent interface for it.
No, it's not a good interface. It's not a big enough screen, and it's really slow.
Yeah, the one in the XF was very sluggish. Push a button, and then a couple of seconds later, it'll do whatever the thing was.
It's amusing you mentioned about you're not allowed to use your phone, but like in the Volvo, you plug your phone and it's got Apple CarPlay, and it's like, well, this is just a slightly larger version of my phone.
I know it is, and Android Auto is the same. You're just magnifying the apps that I have on my phone. Really.
Yeah, someone's not thought this through.
No,
but
as ever, legislation is very slow to catch up with what's actually happening.
Yes, I mean, in Volvo's defence, their voice commands are brilliant.
Okay,
that works really well if you want to adjust the temperature or to pop your heated seat onto a certain setting. There is a button on the steering wheel to talk to the car, and that's it. And it responds really well.
That's good. Yeah, the Tesla did when I first had it. It's got worse.
No, good.
So I don't know why they've fiddled with the voice commands, and it's got worse. There was a period where it didn't work at all. I just couldn't make it understand me. It was
Oh, dear.
completely, tell it to play a particular, because it's linked to Spotify. You can tell it to search Spotify for music.
Oh, God, no.
So you can say, play whatever it might be, and it'll go off and search Spotify and start playing it. But in the earlier release of the software, it would search Spotify and find the track, but it wouldn't play it. So you still had to look at the screen. No, you were almost there.
Nearly had it.
Just a little bit more. Yes.
Oh,
They have since
dear.
dealt with that, and it will now start playing automatically. But now it doesn't understand what you've asked for, so it'll start playing the wrong music.
No,
You
I'd
ask for
rather.
Dire Straits and you get Tchaikovsky. It's not quite the same thing.
No, it's not what you want when you're on a cruise.
Oh, really? So that needs a bit more work, but the screen's very responsive and fast in the Tesla. I've not had an issue with that. And they have upgraded them in the later cars to be even faster, because the one in mine uses an NVIDIA processor, whereas in the later cars it's an Intel, which apparently is faster.
Okay. But like you said, you've never really had a performance issue with it. So
no, I haven't. It's slower than it used to be. Like all computers, you keep upgrading the operating system, and it all gets slightly slower and slightly slower.
And the
And
demands are a bit higher.
We all know that happens.
So, we do.
Yes.
Yeah, it's probably a bit difficult to lift the lid on yours and pop a new processor in.
Yeah, they do offer it as an upgrade, £1,400, and you can have the latest computer put in an older car. So they will do it. Tesla will retrofit the latest computer into an older vehicle.
Oh.
In fact, there's a whole suite of upgrades they're offering now to put the latest tech into earlier cars, which is rather cool.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. I think, considering our background, I think we should have a go at doing it ourselves.
Oh, I reckon that'd be fine, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it would be all right.
Yeah, I reckon. What could possibly go wrong?
No, they'll be all right. We'll be all over that. So
Yeah,
no,
it would be fine. Is there anything you didn't like about it?
I think one thing I noticed almost immediately, which is a really minor criticism, is rear visibility.
Yeah, that isn't the best, but it isn't on any modern car, to be fair. That's a common problem across the whole industry. Is rear visibility has gone, if you pardon the pun, right out of the window.
Haha.
Oh, ha.
Yeah, you think I'm quite spoilt with my current vehicle?
Yes, you are. You'll never have that again.
No.
I don't think. No.
No. Well, no one can be asked to make an estate car anymore, so no chance.
Well, there is that too. But even if they did, it wouldn't have the rear visibility that yours has got. No, I mean that is exceptionally good.
It is, yeah, and you are completely correct. I mean, having like mentioned the modern Volvo, it was a V90 that I've been driving, and the visibility in all directions is piss poor.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. I don't know why windows have got smaller and smaller on cars, whether it's the crash protection, so they bring the window line higher, and making it, I don't know what it is, but the visibility on cars seems to be getting worse.
I mean, in terms of front visibility, the modern cars, the size of pillars are enormous.
That is another issue with the Model S particularly, is that, I don't know if it was something you noticed, but when you're sitting at a roundabout or a junction, those pillars are huge.
They are quite big.
It does have blind spot warning. It will show you on the binnacle screen if there is anything there. But my natural instinct is not to look at a screen; it's to look out of the window.
Yeah, I mean, I've driven a few modern cars, and it's no different to them, really. It's not.
Yeah,
but it
it's
wasn't
part of the crash structure, isn't it?
Yeah, it's not noticeably different.
No, the Tesla's crash structure is second to none. When Euro NCAP tested it, and on one of the tests, they press a concrete block down onto the top of the car to test its crush. Test how strong it is, see if it can be crushed. And apparently, the car didn't move at all, and the concrete block cracked in half.
Bloody hell!
Yes, they said it was the safest car they've ever tested.
Okay, no, you're all right then. You're
yes,
safe in that.
I think so.
Mm.
Yes, that was one of the things that attracted us to it. But yeah, the pillar. As a result of that, those pillars are enormous. Like you say, that's not uncommon.
No,
these
no,
days.
no. Particularly, like say, modern cars, they are. Yeah, they're just the pillars are ridiculous, aren't they?
Yeah, they are. And you do, you do find yourself almost peering around them, leaning over in your
Yeah,
seat to see around it.
yeah,
Is there
it's
anybody there?
weird.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, it would with the size of them, it really is easy to lose a small vehicle behind one.
Oh, you could easily. Yeah,
Mm.
you could. I've had it at roundabouts and things where, yeah, there was a car in that blind spot, and you are completely unaware of them.
Mm.
It is a genuine concern. So, yeah, but that isn't restricted to the Tesla. Loads of
No,
modern cars have that issue.
no, it's industry wide. That no,
It is.
no, I didn't have any major criticisms. I mean, I didn't have any of the sort of autonomous shit come and bother me or anything like that.
No, you didn't.
I mean, I know you don't have autopilot, but it didn't.
No.
None of the other stuff, none of the sort of lane departure or anything daft like that came to bother me. It just let me get
No,
on with driving.
I wondered if it would on the twisty roads, but it didn't seem to. It obviously never thought you were heading towards anything substantial. So
Well, that's all right. And you didn't look like you were on edge, so that was good.
perfectly relaxed. It was all fine. Yes, it was all fine.
Oh,
You
he's
were
a
fully
question.
insured.
That's fine. Yes, mind you, it's your premium if I twat anything.
It is my premium, but I do have quite a lot of insurance on it, so
Yeah, you'll be all right.
including gap insurance. So it would probably financially have worked out quite well. I would have ended up with a better car than the one I started with. Yes, prices have changed somewhat since I took out that policy. So it would get me a much better car now than it did at the time.
Crazy. I like that.
So yes, on a car of that value, I would always recommend gap insurance. You can do well out of that if in an accident.
Well, fortunately, we didn't have anything resembling
No
an accident.
incidents at all.
All
No,
is
no
well.
incidents at all. Would it has it brought you any closer to wanting one?
Yeah, well, yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
obviously.
yeah. I mean, the desire was there anyway. They've got that.
Yes.
They've got that Apple thing about them as a brand, and the same thing that Aston Martin have got. You just want one in
True.
general.
That's
So yeah,
right.
having tried one, it lived up to expectations.
Yes. What they've done is what Steve Jobs did with Apple in the sort of early 2000s, in that he made you feel like you were buying a little slice of the future. And I think Elon's
Mm,
done the same thing with Tesla, perhaps even more so, because I think it genuinely is a slice of the future. And the Model S, particularly, I think it was like the iPhone, the iPad, that kind of stuff, the early MacBooks, even. It's the first modern long range electric car. It's not the first electric car by any means, but it was the first that we will think of as the modern electric car. It showed the direction. It forced the industry to change, much as the iPhone did, for mobile phones. It defined a whole new type of phone, a whole new type of device, just like the Model S has defined a whole new type of car,
yeah,
and a new way of using a car and living with a car. And I think like you say, it's aspirational, it's cool. Apple have perhaps lost a bit of that in recent years, but Tesla have certainly still got it. The difference, I think, is that I don't think anybody truly hated the iPhone and everything it stood for, whereas there are people that truly hate electric cars and everything they stand for.
yeah.
They do generate a lot of hate,
It's a
which is
tricky one, isn't it? Because there's this fine line of going. Well, there's people who just have absolute hatred and refuse it, and go, well, I'm not giving up my normal car.
yeah,
You got people who thoroughly embrace it. You've then got, well, It's become a bit renowned on the internet, isn't it, for the die-hard Tesla fans?
There is an element of that.
Yeah,
Yes,
it can be a little militant at times.
yes, they can. Yes, I don't think I'm one of those, but there are a lot of Tesla fanboys out there who won't have a word said against it. Yeah, and that if you buy anything else, you're a moron.
Yeah, there's plenty of extremes, but somewhere in the middle, that's a bit of the sweet spot there. Yeah.
That's where it needs to be. Yeah, absolutely. Certainly, if Tesla hadn't existed, I don't think many other car manufacturers would be making electric cars. Certainly not putting the effort in that they are at the moment.
No, I think that's true. Here you go. I'll tell you what. This tells the story, actually. After going for a spin in your car, the kids said, "Oh, where did you go today?" And I told them.
Okay.
They were all, really? Went to drive in a Tesla? Yeah. They're all, what are we talking? 7, 10, and 13.
Yeah.
And they all know what a Tesla is.
The young folk get it.
Mm.
Absolutely, the young folk get it. And if I'm getting a thumbs up or some sort of acknowledgement from someone on a pavement when I'm driving through town, it'll be a younger person who absolutely get it and love it and want to know more. And yeah, when I had my tires done last, there were two guys in the tire shop. One of them must have been in his 20s. The other one, late 50s, maybe even early 60s. The attitude difference between those two was colossal. The younger guy was interested, full of sensible questions, wanted to know everything about it. How do you charge it? How far does it go? All the usual questions. The older guy just stupid, innit? It's never going to work. Didn't want to know. Didn't want to know. Just dismissed it as ridiculous. And that's the difference. That's what we're up against, I'm afraid. The older generation just don't want to know. Not everyone, of course. I mean,
No.
my father's in his mid-70s, and his next car is going to be a Tesla Model Y, so he's all for it. But there's a large group, and there is definitely a young-old divide with it. And it's good that the younger people are getting it, because they're the ones that are going to live in a world that is only electric cars. You know, for the most part, petrol, diesel cars will be very unusual. 10, 20 years time, electric cars will be the norm.
Yeah. It'll go the other way then, won't it?
Yeah, it will. But it's interesting. That's great that's the reaction of your kids. I think that's brilliant.
Yeah, and despite my best efforts, none of them are particularly car orientated. I mean, Edward maybe.
Young to tell.
It's a bit young to tell. He tends to have more pictures of motorbikes than cars, which is fine. I'll accept something motorized. That's not an issue.
It's a vehicle of some description. Yes,
yeah,
right.
not a problem.
No, Sam, my son, is not particularly interested in cars. He's not uninterested, but it's not a big passion for him. He's far more interested in ships and planes, actually, ironically. But I think he gets that from his grandfather, Dawn's father, who had a boat and had a glider. He was a very keen glider for a long time, and he was in the RAF during the war. And so I think he may get the interest in boats and planes from him. But I mean, Sam knows cars, and Sam was, very excited when we got a Tesla. He thought that was the best thing in the world. But he's not particularly interested in cars. But there it is.
Yeah, I don't know. We'll have to try harder, I think.
We will. At his age, I was car mad.
Oh yeah. I think as far back as I remember, and then you get told stories of even younger that when I don't remember, and it's always been cars.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I was the same. But
I think I remember there's some rather amusing photos and even an audio tape that my granddad recorded. I think I was only 2, maybe 2.5.
Right.
And he said all I would do was go. He said, just go straight to the garage, and sit in his Cortina and play.
Very good.
Mm.
Very good.
No,
That's
we
nice.
do
That's
like a bit of that.
Yes, you still would, wouldn't you?
Well, I would, especially now. If I could go and sit and play in a Cortina, I'd
In a
be well away.
Cortina, you'd be right up for that.
No,
Yes,
I would indeed.
absolutely.
But here's a question relating to driving your car. Then, how honoured shall I feel that you've done the paperwork? Has anyone else driven your car other than your good lady?
No.
Wow.
You are only the third person who doesn't work for Tesla to drive that car. Yes. Yes. I think my dad will have a go in it because his next car will most likely be a Tesla, and I think he's quite interested to try it out. So he'll have a go.
Mm.
But to date, yes, you are. Other than myself and Dawn, you're the only person to drive it. Yeah.
Well, I'm quite honoured there.
There you go. There you go. Very special. I mean, you did pay for the privilege, to be fair. You did lay down real money to pay for the insurance.
I did, yeah. I let you do the admin, but I thought it's only fair that I pay for my.
To your credit, yes.
Yeah.
You did send me the money to cover it. So
yeah, I didn't. You don't have to fund my habit.
No, it's a pity that we did that right before lockdown. So the whole of the last 12 months have been a bit wasted. But
yeah, I paid for a year of insurance and got a day.
Yeah, an afternoon. Yes, that's right. But that's just how the world has worked out. But,
yes, can't be helped.
But it didn't put you off anyway.
No. Or the want is strong.
The one, yes. Well, they're coming down in price.
They are. Just it's one of those things at the minute of just going. I'm just not going to buy a car in general at the moment.
Well, no, of course not. It'd be silly to do it now, wouldn't it? Even if you bought a used one, it's still quite an expensive car at the moment.
Yeah, I want things a bit more normal. And like I said, the Volvo is, since its last MOT, I have not really moved.
No, well, until we actually start doing things again, there's no point, is there? Maybe when there's some longer trips on the go, it might be more worth thinking about it. But for the moment, and until all this is cleared, no, it's pointless.
Yeah, quite. Yeah, once we're there, the browsing will commence. But
yes. Well, the used one now is a lot more of an option because, as I say, Tesla are offering all these upgrades. So you could buy an earlier car and then bring the tech in it up to date.
Yeah, this is true.
Which is nice for not actually that very much money. I mean, they're 1,400 quid for a new computer. I think it's 400 quid for a charging upgrade to put the latest CCS module in it. You can upgrade the autopilot computer for about £3,000 if you were bothered about that. You might not be.
No, not really fast on that one.
No, but yeah, there's a number of things you can do now which will bring the tech in it up to date, which is nice. So buying an older one is a genuinely, it's a good option. You get a Model S now for less than 25 grand.
Well, this is true. The only trouble is it won't go on my driveway.
No, that's true. We discovered that, didn't we?
It will require some remodeling if I do that.
You're going to have to change the angle of the dangle there. Yes.
Yes. Bit of scraping.
That's not going to work. Or buy one with the adjustable air suspension, because then you can lift it up in the air when you go onto your driveway.
This is valid. Yeah.
That would sort it.
On that topic, is that a manual process, or can you tell it to do it automatically when you arrive at a certain geographical point?
Yes, you can do that. You can, when you do it the first time, obviously you tell it to do it, and then it'll give you an option to remember that. So that every time,
because there are ones where you arrive home without brain engaged.
Yes, and do you want to do this every time? And you say yes, and it will.
Okay.
So unless the GPS signal goes out, it'll lift itself up every time it returns to that point. So
that should be fine.
Pretty cool, and it will go quite high. So I think that would sort it, because it wasn't. I wasn't beached exactly. Well, not quite.
No, no, and I did get down to have a look as you were pulling off the drive, and there was only the very briefest of sort of pinch points
Yeah,
of it.
it
So,
wasn't a
yeah,
lot.
no.
Yeah, being able to raise it up would have sorted that. But
Mm,
as I say, I missed that by about 6 months on my car.
bugger it.
They brought that in just slightly after I bought mine.
Oh,
But that's always going to be the way, isn't it? There's always going to be something like that.
there'll be some feature you're missing, but yeah, it doesn't matter, does it?
Absolutely. Well, I think that's probably enough of that for this week. Check us out on all the various social medias and things. Thank you very much for listening.